seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go, the Monday Club, the original Bhoycie Bus show, the staple show, where I'm joined by my far more intelligent little brother, Jonathon Boyce, on the Monday Club. What's happening, mate? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. It's going to be a big week for Celtic this week. We are now dining at the biggest table in the casino. It's win or bust tomorrow night for Celtic. It's the high-stakes table. We've been playing about it in the Champions League so far on the smaller stakes tables, but on tomorrow night, it all becomes a very big gamble. And on top of that, we even get to discuss a little bit more about what went right, what went wrong on Saturday. Not quite the drubbing I had anticipated. I think I had Celtic down to win like 4 or 5-0 on that predictor. Shows how much I know, Russell, but I'm sure we'll dig into it.
The days of predicting 10 seem a long time ago, though, anyway. Fucking hell.
Yeah, oh, definitely. 100%. 100%. It's just a win by any means necessary now.
Absolutely, absolutely. But Jonathon, you've built up the show there perfectly. Also, don't forget there will be the small case of Sutton Death with Phil McGinley joining us with around 10-15 minutes to go for what will be a head-to-head Jonathon marathon this season, which I know deep down you'll be taking seriously, as will I. And may the best man win. May the best Boyce win. I
don't like losing at anything to you, so I've definitely done my homework, Russell. I'm fully prepared for this.
How have you done homework? I don't even know what the topic is apart from Celtic. You're just reading Celtic.
Well, you just go and read a wee Celtic encyclopedia in your spare time, your lunch break, etc. I'm feeling optimistic as long as McGinley doesn't hit us with some right curveball that I'm going to go 1-0 up this week.
I like it, mate. I like it. An energetic start to the Bhoycie Bus. And to get more energy in the bus, we need some more passengers. How can we do that? Well, you could hit the subscribe button if you want to get notifications and things like that from when we go live. We are live most days. We'll definitely be live tomorrow for some PMP. And I know it's the return of the Judge Kearney. If you want to like, that helps us get traction on YouTube just now. There is obviously the comment section, which is fundamental to everything we do in the Bhoycie Bus, and we love you doing that. And if you even want to share it, that'd be a big help as well. We've got over 40 joined us, Jonathon. They'll put in 5 minutes as well, but we expect that on a Monday. This is what we do on Monday nights, Jonathon. Main event Mondays, you could say. But Jonathon, yes, I have done 2 shows since Saturday's relief of victory. It was an underwhelming, I know you're not allowed to say that word sometimes with regards to certain signings and things, but it was an underwhelming performance overall. It was underwhelming substitutions that were made. It was ecstasy, though, Jonathan, when chaos brought the chaos, and that was the reality when you see fans on the pitch and everything. I had him with no top on, punching sponsor boards. I mean, we called him chaos on the bus. I nearly said I called him chaos. I think I did, but I like to think of it as a bus term that we use because it's only on the Bhoycie Bus really he's called chaos. And I think he really did, though. Like, he did us a wee turn, you know, on not just for Celtic, but I think that nickname, Jonathan, has never been so apt. We've had a couple of days now going over what the reasons were, the contradictions we feel we've maybe received in terms of messages from the manager at press conferences, things like that. He was at it a wee bit again today, I'll be honest, because he's literally talking. I mean, I've got the clip. I mean, he's literally saying, you know, that, you know, don't sit in when you get he's talking about the equaliser against Leipzig. I can't believe we had a position, we had something in the game, and then we ended up trying to protect it. And I'm like, we had, like, he's like, you know, you should be trying to go on. And it's like, but that's not what we did. But anyway, I think I've dwelled, I should say, on a lot of that. Jonathan, what were your takeaways from Saturday? Obviously, the feeling of relief overweighs everything. And it set us up for, you know, our Saturday nights, whatever it was everyone was up to, with a smile on our face. But the reality is, it was a real how would you describe it? It was one where we were put through the mill, Jonathan. It was a toughie.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was far more nervous than it needed to be. Certainly, you know, up until the substitutions were made, I felt we were pretty much in control of the game. We probably should have been out of sight. Really, I think that almost gets forgotten about given what happens in the final 15 minutes or so. You know, I think Abada probably should have had a couple. Giakoumakis is very unfortunate with the one that's offside. It's very, very tight. James Forrest is probably through on goal at one point, and we get on the receiving end of a poor decision from the linesman there as well. Having said that, first half it were a wee bit slow. Took us a wee bit of time to really create an awful lot. It was looking like it was going to be another one of these stuffy games. We get the break with the own goal. I felt we pushed on after we got ourselves in front. And as I say, we should have been out of sight. Substitution-wise, I think was just wrong on so many levels, bringing on so many defensive midfielders. But I know that's been discussed at length over the last couple of days. I actually think Ange, though, had intentions of always making those substitutions. I think Postecoglou's mind already was one eye on Leipzig on Tuesday, and the situation was if Celtic were winning that game against St Johnstone, he was always planning on pulling his midfielders off, because I think he won't actually play a natural number 6 tomorrow night. I think he knows it's win or bust tomorrow night. I think he's got one eye on
that
mind.
Casino theory, Jonathan, I like it.
Casino theory, I think he was already looking at the high rollers table instead of concentrating on the hand he was dealing with in St Johnstone on Saturday. And I think he had already mapped out in his head he was going to make those substitutions if Celtic were winning the game. Because I think he kind of probably felt even at 1-0, Celtic would have enough to see the game out against St Johnstone. And I think he was probably looking at it from a point of view that he wanted to make sure his best attacking players didn't pick up a knock. And I think in some ways, I know us as fans, we get really caught up in it all and we, you know, hate the thought of dropping any points. I think Ange Postecoglou was probably a bit more relaxed about it, particularly after the start he had in his away games last season and being written off because he was so far behind. I don't think he would have been looking at St Johnstone, and, you know, if that game had finished 1-1, I know we'd have all been up in arms and we'd have been saying, what the hell was those substitutions for? I think in his mind, he would have probably sacrificed dropping points against St Johnstone. It goes back to our debate we had with Mark Kearney a few weeks ago. I think if you were asking Ange Postecoglou what the more important fixture was, if you offered him a win against Leipzig, but it meant dropping 2 points potentially against St Johnstone, I don't think he would have minded that too much, because he'd have been looking at the bigger picture. And I feel that was where his substitutions came into effect. I don't agree with them. But I think that was why he ended up doing it, was because he wanted to make sure his attacking players were not on the pitch for longer than he needed to be, particularly when he's going into a high-stakes game on Tuesday night. But looking at it, after we make those substitutions, we invite pressure. They have a few really good chances. Joe Hart makes a very good save at 1-0. They then have another one they really should score before they eventually do get the goal. The goal's an absolute mess from our point of view. I think Welsh loses his man completely. It looks like Giakoumakis may have got a wee nudge, but that's kind of clutching at straws a little bit. But you can't fault the players, because it would have been very easy. And, I was pretty much giving that one up as a 1-1, almost even given, considering what this team have proven last season, that they can dig deep into the reserves and find ways to win games. That didn't look like that was going to be one of those types of games. And, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but there was one player that really stood out, and he probably delivered a knockout blow to St Johnstone. That was actually James McCarthy, with his contribution when it was 1 each, and him showing that bit of desire and oomph, I think, that the other two central midfielders would not have been able to bring to the table that were on the pitch at that point. James McCarthy was the only one out of those three central midfielders that looked like he had that sense of urgency and understood what it meant to get the 3 points there, and it was him that was the quickest to the ball. Burnaby, I think, had a pretty solid game at left-back's great ball in, and as you rightly say, Chaos does what Chaos does best when he's given service, and he wasn't given a lot of service at all on Saturday. And I think, it just proves again, when you give that man a chance, he's going to score, Russell. He just doesn't really getting many opportunities on Saturday. And I think he cut a bit of a frustrated figure. And I think you've seen that in the way he celebrated the goal. As much as it was relief and joy and ecstasy, there was a little bit of needle there, which I quite liked as well from Chaos. I think there's lots of ways to look at it, to kind of summarise. We kind of talked about it last week, that it could have been a potentially big opportunity to set the scene for Leipzig on Tuesday by winning comfortably and, motoring into a Leipzig game. But sometimes, winning in the manner that you do can also give you a massive shot in the arm, winning in the last minute, particularly when you've had to overcome adversity, which, granted, I think was of our own making. But, we still managed to find a way to redeem ourselves in that game. And sometimes that can give you an awful lot of momentum going forward as well, because it gives you a kick up the arse, but you didn't actually end up suffering any drop points from that game. And it might just refocus the players. And, I'm feeling reasonably optimistic about Tuesday, even despite, I think, the fact Postecoglou got a few things wrong. And I certainly think we got out of jail a bit in the game. But I think, getting such a late winner and the dramatic scenes at the end of that will actually push the players on for tomorrow night.
Jonathan, there's loads to take away from what you said there, but that was rounded up pretty nicely, mate. And I agree. I think, even though, we did the Sunday blether, Regan at his best yesterday.
Yep.
And it felt at times like, I'm having to be critical of the team, etc. But you're just giving an honest opinion. You can consistently justify doing that anyway, or you certainly shouldn't have to, but I suppose you kind of do. But with regards to the outcome, was at the end of the conversation with Regan, at the end of the blether, if you will, we both predicted Celtic to beat Leipzig, Jonathan. We've all talked about the Leipzig game. So it does show that even in the subconscious, I think there is undoubtedly, you're right, when you get a last-minute goal like that, there is a lift. So whilst, yes, you want to talk about the 90 minutes, you want to talk about the failures of those because we got to 1-1. You want to talk about the tactical decisions you didn't agree with because it got to 1-1. But I think we all kind of know that is a wee shot in the arm, as you describe it as, Jonathan, that's given from such late goals. Now, we can't have it both ways either. I was saying yesterday, I find it a wee bit annoying, other than when the manager uses it, because if it was me defending my project, my team, I would consistently, if there's any sort of awkward questions, Jonathan, I would refer back to 15 months ago and the mess I inherited, and look where we are now.
Yeah.
I think Andrew's entitled to do that, by the way. Doesn't piss me off in the slightest when he does. I know others might be different. For me, I think that he's earned that, right? That's something he's earned. I think when commenters, reporters, media, ex-Celtic players like Sutton are doing it, then I'm like, right, well, wait now, you're tipping this here a wee bit to be like, you're sweetening the reality of in front of you a wee bit. But all that being said and done, we did, Jonathon, get 3 points on Saturday. There is not one season I can remember ever where Celtics won the league where they've not had to dig out a win. We dug one
happens
out.
all the time.
And that, right, so this is not something that then has to turn into, the players are all shite now and all this nonsense. All you can critique is what you're seeing in front of you. But we have to look at this as something that maybe, just maybe, if the subs he's made that you're referring to, you think he mapped out, you said, if that is the case, and we've walked away from McDiarmid Park with 3 points, and we get 3 points Tuesday, could look very, very clever. Now, this sounds like I'm contradicting myself from yesterday, but I'm not. What I'm trying to do is give you both sides of the debate, which you've brought to the table really, really well, because I don't like Jonathon being negative for negative's sake. It's not my style. I like to be realistic. But I think there is still, whilst the week is still to unfold, shall we say, the full reflection on McDiarmid Park's significance, and whether that be the significance of the 3 points, or whether it be the significance of Ange playing 3 number 6s, what's all that about? The fact that subs seem strange at a strange time. They like to take an Atati off anyway. The lack of taking opportunities, Jonathon. Kyogo sitting the full 90 minutes on the bench. Well, all these decisions, it's not quite played out in full yet. It's not quite played out in full yet, because Tuesday, when that comes round, we'll actually have a big say, Jonathon, in defining how well the decisions Ange may or may not have got on Saturday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's a trickier one because there's question marks over what he's going to do tomorrow night. I think there's one thing about Ange is there's always something that he could surprise you with in a game like tomorrow night. I don't think he's going to play a natural number 6 tomorrow. I think he's going to go high stakes.
Yeah, you said that as well. I missed that. Yeah, that's an interesting take. I'll come in on
that.
Why?
I'll just finish just to say it. I think if he was going to play a number 6, it would have been Obelgard. And if you're going to do that, naturally you would start him to get him some more minutes on Saturday. The fact they brought him off the bench and didn't start him and didn't actually start any natural number 6s, to me points towards the fact I think he's going to go all out attack right from the off, which I'm not sure if that's the right approach or not, but it sounds a very Ange way of playing, and I wouldn't be overly surprised if that was the thinking behind it. Perhaps he maybe doesn't feel like he's got a number 6 that's either up to speed in the case of Overgaard, and he maybe doesn't feel the other two are quite at the level to be playing in the Champions League. Either that, or he's just going to decide, well, it's win or bust anyway, so I'm just going to throw all my chips at it and see what happens.
Well, chips being an interesting word when the casino theme that you've started to show with Jonathon has been discussed. If he does go all chips are in it, I would respect that, by the way, in one degree, because I genuinely think there is it's a must win. I know he was asked about it, and he sort of gave an answer today, Johnstone. He says, well, I know the club I'm at, and I don't think there's any game I can look at as Celtic manager and it not be must win, which is all well and good. But he did take a couple of risks, and as you've said, Jonathon, if he dropped points at the weekend, I think he could have been. You might be right. Maybe he would have been more relaxed. There's many reasons, though, to prioritise Tuesday's game as well. This is the top table, not the top casino table, but the top table to dine at, Jonathon. It's brilliant for Celtic's reputation. It's brilliant for the manager's reputation. And make no bones about it, that is a relevant factor in all this. I don't mind that. Everyone's got their own career. They're short careers, but Ange is going to be shortish, what's left of it, because he's been doing it 26 years. I'm sure he'll want to have probably more free time at some point in his life. So he'll be acutely aware that making dents in the Champions League are very good for his reputation, Jonathon. Winning SPFL titles, okay, last year he probably got more kudos for, but if he wins it again this year, it's not doing much. It's not, tipping the apple cart in his favour any further for any other potential club. Not that he's got one eye on the way out. I'm just being honest. I think there's nothing wrong with that aspect of it. But I think from Celtic as a club, what's very important is We right now have 1 point from 9. Now, 1 point from 9, Jonathan, if that was to become 1 point from 12, the 2 games left, you might be playing Shakhtar in a head-to-head to try and get third. I mean, it depends on obviously how the other results go, and it could all be nuts.
Yeah.
But you could also then potentially be going to like the likes of the Bernabeu the Bernabeu. I knew I was going to do that. The Bernabeu. The Bernabeu. You could be going there for pride. Mark comes in, and the judge obviously will be back with us. I mean, you're saying the joined up thinking doesn't add up. It's either a precursor to who's playing or it's resting starters. Both don't seem right. For me, it's about his CV. I mean, it's not just about his CV. I think that's too black and white, and I do disagree with that. Do I think it is something he is acutely aware of? Yes. I don't think we are watching a team that has been based on Angie's CV. I'm not quite sure if that's what you mean, Mark. Obviously, you only get so many characters you can text with as well. I know that, so that might be abbreviated for some sort of other meaning. I think at the end of the day, Celtic should Jonathon be showing this competition plenty of respect, and also making a proper fist of it. We need to do that because right now, Celtic as a club have qualified. I don't know what did we say it was, Jonathon, in the last decade.
Qualified for the actual Champions League, yeah. Well, not very many. 4 maybe.
And then Lennon maybe once before that, twice before that.
Lennon twice. Lennon did it twice in his first spell. One's got knocked straight in the group, the other time he got to the last 16.
This year, five in the last 15 years, 5 in the last 13 years. Someone will know in the comments. Phil, that's fun, Phil. That's all I do in life now, John.
5 in about the last 12, I would say. Yeah, something along those lines.
I don't think it's as good a ratio.
12 or 13. Yeah, 5, 12 or 13, I would say.
And what we're wanting to do, Jonathon, is become a force again in your. No one's thinking Celtic can win Champions League titles anytime soon, Just, but fuck me, let's compete in it. The only way to do that is by the first time you're there, making a dent in it. And that may well be by finishing third. I think you would give them pass marks too. But to finish third, you need to have taken away points, Jonathon. And that means taking points off clubs that maybe are a wee bit more accustomed to playing Champions League football, Jonathon. And maybe that, the optics look good for Ange to a point, Mark. And I tell you what you're saying. But let's be honest here. Let's focus on a Celtic point of view as well, though. It would be fantastic for us as a club if we suddenly get that reputation of, they held their own in that group. They finished third and they went out. And by the way, I'm not limiting my expectations to only third place, Jonathon. Of course not. While second is still there, we go for it. But I think we have to be honest and we have to say, to get either of these positions that we're striving for, points have to be taken. I think it's all 3, Jonathon, in this upcoming game with Leipzig. We're not in the best form going into it. We all know that. But do you think that just the nature of that late winner may well do well to eradicate the sort of the lull they seem to have put themselves into of late, which I'm still struggling to completely put my finger on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the late winner will certainly help, as I say, give them a bit of a shot in the arm. I think, tomorrow night's going to be a special night under the lights at Celtic Park. Celtic are going to come out the traps flying, regardless of whoever Ange Postecoglou decides to put in for that game. I think Celtic will try and get themselves into an early lead, and they'll try and start it with the intensity that they did show at the start of the season. And I think a game like this, with the crowd right up behind them, I think Celtic will rise to the occasion. There's a nagging feeling in the back of my head that Celtic will rise to the occasion tomorrow night and play the fixture that they're in, because everyone is going to be up for it. We all know what's at stake. Celtic need the 3 points badly. Well, they need them absolutely if they're going to have any chance at second place.
Them absolutely,
in the group. So they're going to have to find a way to win tomorrow night by hook or by crook if they want to finish second in this group. So I think, from that point of view, I think the fans will play their part. I think the players will be up for it. I think absolutely, you look at St Johnstone and the fact that they were so close to dropping points. And if that had finished 1-1, you're going into that in a really negative frame of mind. And the press would have been extremely negative going into a game like this. Whereas at the moment, there is a bit more of a feel-good bounce because of the fact you've got away with one, really. And you're still been able to win despite not being anywhere close to your best.
Yep.
I think as well, you look at Leipzig, and I think, as I said last week, when you watched them in Germany when we played them, I think Celtic proved they can be got at, and they did have moments in that game. I suspect at home Celtic will have more of those types of moments. I think the one thing that perhaps urge you on the side of caution a wee bit is the loss of Callum McGregor, because it's absolutely massive, I think, for the way Celtic play, and I think it does create a bit of a conundrum as to what he does in the midfield tomorrow night with that, because he's going to have to either choose to play one of the number 6 that he didn't fancy starting against St Johnstone for whatever reason, but ended up bringing them all on, or he's going to have to try and play somebody slightly out of position to accommodate that role, or he does something totally wild and flips the formation and really throws a curveball in there and goes 2 up front. He's got options there, Postecoglou. It would almost seem like it might be the perfect time to try a Kyogo Giakoumakis up front, because it is all or nothing. It is high stakes roulette tomorrow night, and he may as well go out on his sword, if you ask me. And I'd be tempted. On
his shield, is it not? Is it not on his shield?
The shield, yeah, probably.
Sword?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that doesn't sound right, does it?
You got it in your shield, Jonathan.
Yeah, you probably do. I don't know. I wasn't around back then.
Can either of them play number 6?
We'll get a night in. We'll get a night in to play that role. But I think for me, if I was looking at it, if he doesn't fancy his number 6s, and I think the only one he probably might fancy is Overgaard, but it's clear he's not up to match fitness. For the fact he didn't start him against St Johnstone, I'll be surprised if he decides to chuck him in from the start tomorrow.
Couple of brilliant debating points there across the team, Jonathan. Now, the Kyogo Giakoumakis, I think the feeling seems to be, I could see Paul Gilston earlier. I'm brilliant to have you back on the bus, mate. Always enjoy your interaction. Red Scotland, I'm sure yesterday was an agreement. I think there's plenty of you, to be fair. I'm just pulling out names out my arse here. The debate up top, I think there is now a real sort of, Jonathan, I'm trying to think of the right word here. I wouldn't call it demand, but appetite. That's the word, Jonathan. Yep. I think there is now a real appetite to see Celtic start with both Kyogo and Giakoumakis. I know we were told yesterday it's a front, they already play 3 forwards. It's 2 wingers and a forward. I know what people mean by that, but I think it could be time, Jonathan, to go 2 up top, as in 2 traditional, what you would call forwards, Jonathan, i.e. centre forwards. But maybe that's what I should have said. Centre forwards. I definitely think that the appetite for that's grown of late. I'm certainly of the belief, Jonathan, Chaos Giakoumakis. We were discussing it yesterday, and I'm really not sure if anyone knows of a record like it, Jonathan, with 16 goals and 18 starts in a Celtic jersey.
It's incredible.
Have you ever heard of a player not getting a game for Celtic with numbers like this?
He'd be desperately unlucky if he's dropped. He's desperately unlucky if he gets dropped again tomorrow. But I think everyone expects him to be. That's the harsh reality of it.
I don't think he starts tomorrow.
No, neither do I. I'd love to see them go with the 2 up front. I think that would be an excellent curveball to throw at Leipzig. But I think he's going to end up going back to type and putting Giakoumakis back on the bench, which is extremely unfortunate because the guy's not really done an awful lot wrong, and he's never really been given too many actual opportunities to start many games. St Johnston's must be one of only a handful of starts he's actually had this season, and he still managed to end up getting a goal at the end. It could end up being an absolutely critical one come the end of the season when we look back on it. If we win the league, we might well look at these points at St Johnstone as being similar to the sort of points we won last year late against like Dundee United at Celtic Park or Ross County and Dingwall. So I think you've got to reward players that are playing well, Russell. I'm a big believer in the ones that are coming in and showing something to the manager. You've got to keep them in. You can't just drop players willy-nilly and just keep chopping and changing it. And, for me at the moment, Giakoumakis has shown a bit more form in the last couple of weeks than Kyogo has. So you could almost make a claim that if you were going to play one up front, it should really be Giakoumakis and Kyogo should be the one off the bench. It would be an argument I would make if they were going to go with just the one up front. Just if we're just talking purely on form at the moment. And I think that's something he will need to look at going forward, even in the midfield positions. I think, he's going to have to make some calls there too. And I think James McCarthy, as I touched upon on Saturday, I'm not calling on him necessarily to start tomorrow, but I think he should get a run. I think he should be playing in the next domestic game, absolutely. I think he showed the most, McCarthy, out of the players that actually came on in the centre of the park. I think James McCarthy showed the most out of all of them, that if there's going to be one that comes in, he was the one who impressed the most against St Johnstone, so it should be him that is given the opportunity first for that number 6 role. But again, that's probably pie in the sky nonsense, and Ange Postecoglou will keep him on the bench, because it does seem to me as if he has a pecking order with his squad, and the likes of Giakoumakis is certainly second choice striker. And I think even with what McCarthy did in his brief appearance against St Johnstone, despite the fact it was critical for us winning that game, I still fully expect him to be quite far back in the pecking order in terms of getting a game in midfield, even despite McGregor's injury. And I just don't know, what do you think? Do you think Ange has the capabilities there of dropping certain players even when they're not showing a bit of form? Is he stubborn when it comes to the ones like your Giakoumakis, even when he's playing well, because he's got that soft spot for Kyogo that makes it almost impossible for Giakoumakis to get in? Is it even possible for guys like McCarthy to get in when he's got, Aaron Moy now there, and obviously Obelgard that he's getting up to speed, despite McCarthy putting in a pretty solid performance on Saturday?
These are the interesting debates, Jonathan. At the end of the day, these are options, up front right now. Despite our clamour on the bus for a third striker to be signed, it does feel that it's going to be one up top, predominantly. I think someone was saying in the comments there has been an example of us playing 2 centre forwards, Maeda and Kyogo. Don't remember it, but that's fair enough. If that happened, I think that's even more bizarre, though, if you would be playing them 2 up top, if you're willing to do it, and not, I think, a little and large combo, Johnson, that might, in theory, sound like this throwback to, like a throwback to the good old days, Jonathan, where you used to have little and large strikers, like Sutton, Larson. It was under
the Martin O'Neill era. We are making sure we get our money's worth out of that class.
I had to. I dragged that out there because I'm trying to find the button. But I think definitely these 2 guys would work together. They both bring different qualities. And here's a wee point, Jonathan, I made on Sunday with Regan. I wonder what your takeaway from this is. Do you actually think either of them do suit being lone strikers, or have they actually surpassed, expectation and things like that, Jonathan, in spite of not actually being natural lone strikers? Kyogo was more of a winger when we signed him. Giakoumakis, I have to confess, I'm not sure if he played a lone striker, for MVV. I'm really not sure on that one, so forgive me. But when I watch him play, at times I just think he's dying for someone up close, running around him. He wins headers, Jonathan. He wins flick-ons. He wins these battles. And I think once he's given the time, there was one point he sprayed a ball miles at the park, and I was like, that's just not his game. Trying to then find, I think, just summoning around him, getting those ugly knock-ons, Jonathan, getting those flick-ons. If Giakoumakis is getting in at near post, even doing wee dummies and things like that, and a Kyogo coming in, I think Kyogo's press with a more focal point Giakoumakis central that Kyogo just needs to find if he is to pinch a ball here and there. I think all these opportunities sound quite exciting. If we're going all in, like you said, Jonathan, at the top of the squad, I was reading one of the comments there, at the top of the show, that would require both Chaos and both Kyogo to start. Sadly, I don't see that happening. What I will also say, though, is I do believe when you're asking about stubbornness and things, that's one side of it. What I would also say is I think it's a manager's job to find a way to get your best players in your starting 11. That's what I think. There's got to be an argument, of course, as well, that maybe see Jota out of position, maybe it's a straight shootout. But I think there's more to it than there only can be one striking position or one centre forward position. It seems so far like it's had to be very black and white, Kyogo or Giakoumakis. I would like to see a wee bit of flexibility in that, Jonathon. I think it could be done. And by the way, see, when you talk about predictability and things like that in football now, whilst the way we play, we can catch any team, Jonathon, without, catch any team out, Jonathon, when we start like a steam train. Right? 100% we can. And no one, even if they know it's coming, they still can't deal with it. That's fine. But the more times that happens, Jonathon, the better teams get adapting to it. The air of unpredictability is still a weapon that we've not really seen used in that aspect when it comes to the two forwards. I would love to see those two up front from tomorrow, and let's fucking have it. And I think that'd be, I think all the fans would love that. I think as well. See, right now, whilst people don't like you questioning the manager and stuff, let's forget about trying to challenge the manager. Let's just skip forward a wee bit and go, you've just arrived at Celtic Park. The team news is coming through and the two of them start. So rather than argue with other fans who are second guessing the manager and that may be annoying you, imagine what that buzz will be, Jonathon. And that's where you know it's an option fans want. I am telling you, if fans see those two names on the team sheet, there is a wave of excitement and it almost heightened expectation, hope, if you like, Jonathon. I think that would create a real buzz. Just my takeaway. Do I think it'll happen though? Sorry to kill that buzz. No.
It's one of those ones I don't necessarily expect him to start with the two of them. I wouldn't be overly surprised if he ends up finishing the game with both of them on the park, depending on how the match is going, because he does have to gamble, and if Celtic are still chasing down a winner with 15 minutes to go, I think he would absolutely end up having no other option but to put the two of them on the pitch at the same time. Hopefully put them both through the middle. I mean, it'll be an interesting one. I think, to touch back on your points, I think they absolutely would benefit from playing up front with each other. I think, the amount of knockdowns and things Giakoumakis wins, that would just be a dream for Kyogo to be feeding off of things like that. I think, they'll be able to link up very well. It would just give you that extra option to actually have the defence having to think about another body that's right up top if you were to play the two of them through the middle together as two out-and-out strikers. I think there's a lot of positives to look at it, and then there's a lot of different ways you can even go about it there, because you have different means of attacking when you've got the two of them up front, because Giakoumakis is going to be the boy who's going to cause you all sorts of problems with those balls into the boxes that Kyogo can't really offer the same level of threat. But then if you want to play balls in behind or balls into feet and Kyogo to do nice wee turns and flicks, you have that option there, as well. So I think it would certainly be something that would whet the appetite of the fans to see. Obviously there is a possibility the two of them could end up starting tomorrow, but perhaps not as we expect. Obviously with Jota potentially being ruled out, and whether Ange's just being very coy on Jota's situation remains to be seen, and we'll find out more when we actually get the team news through tomorrow. But he is certainly suggesting he could be a doubt to start tomorrow night, Jota. Suffering soreness, I think he's been quoted as saying today, which could potentially lend the opportunity for Kyogo to play out wide and Giakoumakis through the middle if indeed Jota wasn't deemed fit enough to make it, which again would be an interesting option, because I don't think we've seen enough of Kyogo out wide in a Celtic shirt. I think it's something that he revelled in Japan, and it's just not really something that we've seen much of when he's been at Celtic. I think the one that always sticks out is the first derby under Postecoglou at Ibrox, where he ends up out wide and doesn't have his best game, and Edouard's just not really doing his job through the middle in that particular match either. And I think it's almost been written off as a result of that match. I wouldn't be overly surprised if Ange was to pull something like that out of the bag if Jota wasn't available, because I think Abada's maybe not quite firing as well as he can. I think Maida's certainly going through a poorer patch, which Regan touched upon yesterday. I think for me, Haksabanovic should be in the starting 11. I think there's a very good chance he might go out wide, depending on who is available and what the manager wants to do, but he could well.
Wait. Right, okay. So Jota's out. Let's say he's out. That's hypothetical, by the way, for anyone who's just jumped on and me sounding like I'm being prophetic. No, he might be out, he might not be. But let's go hypothetically, Jonathan. He's out. What's the front three look like for you, or the front four?
The front three. For me, if he's out, I think he would probably go with Kyogo, Haksabanovic, and Giakoumakis through the middle. I really think he might well go for something like that. But it still makes it very interesting as to what he does with his midfield three, because I find that very hard to actually call if he does decide to.
Well, so you think he would go Haksabanovic playing where?
Haksabanovic will be out on the right, I think, and then you'd have Kyogo on the left and Giakoumakis through the middle. I think you might put Kyogo out on the wing. But it's very hypothetical. I mean, that's possibly what I would look to do. I'm looking at it more on form of the players and the ability of them. And I think Haksabanovic has shown more form than the other wingers outside of Jota at present, and we're working on the assumption Jota doesn't make it. So that's what I would think would happen. Knowing Postecoglou, he quite likes Maeda for games like this, so I wouldn't be overly surprised if Maeda takes up a position, and it might well be a case that that's what he ends up doing, and then so he can Haksabanovic back into that number 10 role and still have the same midfield three he started with at St Johnstone, which is perhaps why he wanted to wrap them up in cotton wool and made the substitutions, even though the game wasn't won necessarily at St Johnstone, even though in Ange's mind he probably thought 1-0. That was, and St Johnstone weren't creating anything when he made those substitutions anyway. They weren't creating anything. He was maybe thinking we'd comfortably see the game out. Didn't turn out that way, but he's probably looking at it and thinking, I need to protect my players for Leipzig and give us the best possible opportunity of winning on Tuesday night. And that's why I think he is going to go very, very attack-minded, Russell. I mean, from you looking at the midfield three, he didn't play a number 6 from the start against St Johnstone. You could probably argue he could possibly do starting a number 6 in a game against Leipzig just because of the jump up in quality, and you don't want to end up, deflating the crowd and potentially conceding early. On the flip side of us winning that fast start, if Leipzig were to get an early goal, it sucks the atmosphere completely out of the ground, and you maybe want to have a bit more of a balance in the early period there to make sure something like that doesn't happen. If you were in Ange Postecoglou's shoes, who do you actually put in the midfield three? Do you put in one of the number 6s that came off the bench, or do you just go all out attack? We're going to work on the assumption here that he's not going to change to 2 up front and he's going to stick with the formation, because I think that's what we're all expecting him to do.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that you're right. That is more likely going to be the formation. So operating on that basis, I think you've got to be bold here. I think this is the time, Jonathan, not to back down. Double down. That's what we need to do now. Whilst that might not be double trouble up top, like we would all want it to be, Jonathan, what I do still think that could mean is O'Reilly, who looked like he was the closest to playing number 6, would you say, McDiarmid Park? Maybe the guy that Ange has identified. We actually discussed Hatate being that person. Terry had came up with that idea, which I liked, but taking away Hatate's creative involvements, you look at that pass midweek last week, Hatate might be thinking, you know what, give me a bit of that ball at Celtic Park against these pricks, you know what I mean? I think O'Reilly likely to be sitting deeper, Hatate, and then you go Hacksaw in that, like almost like a number 10. Do you know what I mean? And then play. So it would leave us exposed, but I think we should just have a fucking go, man. Just have that go in that first half. Know at half time what your destiny is. Do you know what I mean? Know where your fate's going to be. Know, do you know what? We're going to need to settle in here. We've got a goal to protect. And know you've got Abelgard's, McCarthy's, Moyes on the bench. I think there'll be a clamour now because of McCarthy's sort of cameo for him to be the one to play. I would have no issue with James McCarthy if that were to be the case playing. I think this guy's, if he can play Roberto Martinez football, Jonathan, which he did. I know he's maybe not the same player now, but having said that, who knows? He's only 31, 32. He's not ancient.
Scott Brown's played some of his best football at that age when he was
he was. You don't just stop being able to run, and maybe McCarthy. I think if he's got that sort of bit between the teeth, you could have called it the other night, John, the other afternoon. I like that. He could be involved. Big Red comes in, Jonathan. But yeah, that'd be my midfield. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, so it would have been, I would have went without an actual number 6. But if it were to be one, I think McCarthy's put himself in that window. But the honest truth is, again, I don't think he gets a fair crack of the whip from the manager. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think he has been since day one. I don't think he's an announced signing. And I think that element of stubbornness we've maybe discussed at times would come in there. And I think he would rather one of his boys played as opposed to one of Dermot's.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's most likely going to be those 3. I think if he had to go with a number 6, he'd probably still pick Moy, I think, over McCarthy, which for me wouldn't be the right move either. Hopefully that's not what comes to pass. But I think the fact he didn't bother starting any of his number 6s, because I feel if you were going to play one of them from the start against Leipzig, particularly if it was going to be Obelgard, you would have started him in Perth to give him minutes because he needs minutes. That boy, it's quite clear that they've been saying he needs to get up to speed. So I kind of feel like this game is probably going to only give him, another 20 minutes or so. If we've got something to hold on to, then he might turn around and look to bring him on. But I think starting him is probably not going to be an option.
I don't think so. I mean, at the end of the day, my preference would be not to start one of the number 6s. I don't think Abelgard can be match fit. I think James McCarthy's been match fit for 2.5 years. And Moy is fucking towing a horse, mate. You know what I mean? Towing a caravan and a horse and whatever goes with it, and the dog that barks and all. I think out the 3, that's what I'm trying to say, would be my preference, would be, if it had to be one, would be McCarthy. But ideally, I think if we're going to go for the jugular here, Jonathan, we're going for the kill. You've just got to do what you did Saturday and just get O'Reilly being that deepest one, except there's going to be defensive frailties, but get that ball pinging about Celtic Park at the pace that we want it to.
Yeah, I think it is a case, as I say, it's high stakes football tomorrow night. We're at the main gambling table at the casino, and I fully expect Ange's going to play all of his attacking chips to try and get something in. I mean, it's an all-in game. Apart from Giakoumakis, although he will feature, without doubt, he will feature, because I don't expect this to be a game that will be decided in the first half. This game will probably go right to the wire, I suspect, and I think Celtic might need a late bit of drama once again if they're to get through this, much similar to what happened on Saturday, and that is where chaos may well come into his own once again and be the one who wins.
Imagine, Jonathan, one of those Champions League moments, like the Donati goal or the Scott McDonald late goal. You imagine, and I like those. I mean, I know the Nakamura one was unbelievable, the free kick, but that was like the 10 minutes to go. Those other 2 felt like last minute goals. Do you know what I mean? Oh, that just having chaos. If he scored that goal at that end, oh mate, it would just be scenes like we deserve as fans that we just don't feel like we've had enough of late, Jonathan. That's what I would say to that. And I mean, yeah, if there's one man who's got the magic dust, mate, who might not be the best footballer in the world, but he's just got something about him that, it's chaos. I think he's got, though, that streak where he could end up doing it. Now, obviously, before I can see Phil's in the background, we're going to do some Sutton Death, Jonathan. Just because we love Chris Sutton. It's not because we're trying to steal, 606 Live or whatever. Yeah, the idea stolen from there. But rather than changing the name, Jonathan, I just think you've got to call it Sutton Death because, it'd be embarrassing not to use his name, Jonathan.
Maybe the big man, one day we'll end up on it. Maybe we'll get him on the bus one time and he can play.
Well, Jonathan, there could be an ex-Celtic player coming on the bus soon with me and Mark Kearney, but more on that later.
You teaser.
I know. But anyway, what I was going to say before that is one thing we know, Jonathan, as well. We were talking. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can still hear you. Yep.
I don't know why my mute button was flashing there. Sorry about that. Sutton Death is a very good name. You're right, Charles. I just wish I'd came up with it. He's also asking when will we be at the press conferences. We asked for access this summer. Not for me to go, Charles. It's not my bag. I've got absolutely. I would happily ask these hard questions, but to be honest with you, I mean, I'd be there 1 week and then I'd be out again. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't. Not because I'd be deliberately trying to do that. I just think sometimes I think there's a reason that fan media is at these things, Charles, and I think the reason Celtic allowed people in the door was to try and quell the sort of control the narrative, you could say. In fact, not quell, control the narrative. Once you get offered the wee tidbit, once you get to meet Ange and you think he's your mate, are you going to give the real critique? What I would say is we did ask for it, though, on behalf of, and it was for Regan, who I know you enjoyed his hosting yesterday, Charles. And Regan's obviously studying journalism, media and things. I thought it would have been a wonderful opportunity for him. I actually happen to think as well he became the apple of Angie's eye, just because, I don't know if you've met Regan, you just know he's got the magic, doesn't he, Jonathan? He's just got that.
He does.
He's got that
does.
aura. And I think, I think Regan would have really done well at those. Sadly, though, it looks like the doors are shut on all other fan media right now. They've got that. I'll be honest, I think they've got their favourites in there, Charles. But anyway, that is that's another story. Jonathan, one thing though, again, that I suppose whilst we're talking about other fan media, they seem to love promoting, Jonathan, is favourable, nicey, lovey-dovey quotes from players or former players or people in the game, Jonathan, who just love Celtic Park as a postcard. And I just can't handle that. Jonathan, we are not a tourist attraction. Marco Rose, he wants to tell us he thinks it's going to be fun, Jonathan, tomorrow. A great crowd. I think we need to get back to the days of them going, we know all about the hostile atmosphere here. We know all about the record here. We know this is going to be a nightmare here. And see, once they've retired and they want to say, wow, that was unreal then, I want to be able to cast my mind back to when was Marco Rose there? Oh, remember that scalping, Jonathan? Or remember that night, you know? And I just feel right now there's something a wee bit cozy, a wee bit family friendly, a wee bit like, Jonathan, Celtic Park, has went PG for these teams that are arriving. Whereas it used to be, Jonathan, an 18 plus. You had to be brave to play at Celtic Park and go against our teams. We had an unbeaten run at Celtic Park that was phenomenal, Jonathan. I don't even need to say his name. You can all see it there. And I just feel now we are just not quite at that stage yet. Obviously, results can change this, Jonathan. Obviously, results. But anyone celebrating managers like Marco Rose, whoever that's meant to be, you know, I know I praised what he did at Salzburg, but I mean, this is hardly Ronaldinho, Jonathan. Do you know what I mean? Talking about it, right? I don't give a monkeys whether he thinks our stadium's, you know, really great or whatever. But when he thinks it's going to be fun, we should be ramming that down his throat. Not because he's not even realising he's being condescending, Jonathan. That's just where it's went now. Do you know what I mean? This isn't a personal thing with him. But I would be reading those comments and I would be fuming if that was me in that Celtic squad. Or if that was me as Ange Postecoglou. I think they're coming here for a jolly. Only team we played at home under me in the Champions League, if I was Ange, is Real Madrid. And we all know what happened first half against them. So if these pricks think they're coming here to soak it all up, they've got another thing coming. That's how I would feel. I'd be raging.
Yeah, you want to rattle their cages early doors and make sure they know it's not going to be fun at all for them. It's going to be hell for 90 minutes. And if they want to look back on it once their careers are all over and feel as if, wow, that was quite an impressive evening and the fans blew us away or whatever, then that's fine. But you don't want to be going there and thinking, oh, they're just going to turn up, enjoy the Celtic Park atmosphere, pick up their 3 points, and then off they get on their flights back to Leipzig with another, comfortable win. under their belts. And I think Celtic Park has for too long not been able to really hold our own in Europe in terms of results in the Champions League in particular. You go back to obviously Martin O'Neill, I think even Gordon Strachan in the Champions League, both of them only lost, I think, to one team between them in the Champions League, and Barcelona done them both. But I don't think anybody else did them at Celtic Park. And, even under Lennon, when he took over first time around as manager, when he got them into the Champions League groups
Awkward truths, Jonathan.
Well, again, Neil Lennon didn't lose to many teams at Celtic Park either. Barcelona were one of the ones that did do them. But again, Juventus did them. But again, I think
in the last 16?
In the last
That's
16,
okay.
yeah.
That's
but,
okay.
To be fair, the reason they were even that far into the competition was based on their home form, and it's always going to be the case for a club like Celtic, because we rely on Celtic Park historically to get us through big nights in the Champions League. It's always been the way for as long as I can remember, that more of our big nights in the Champions League tend to come at home. We only have to look at our away record to realise we need big nights at home to get things done. So if we're just going to end up becoming one of these sort of tourist attractions for other clubs and they're not going to be taking us seriously, we need to get that addressed and sorted out. And, Leipzig tomorrow, it's not Real Madrid. That's the funny thing. That's a very winnable game for us tomorrow evening.
They think it's going to be fun. He's looking forward to the atmosphere. He's looking forward to Celtic Park. Wow, get the Kodaks out, I just really, that's not my team that he gets away with getting to speak like that about, Jonathan. I really find that like a fall from grace, if anything. If that is the reality of what he's saying, I don't know. I don't know if there's a mind trick in there. I don't know if he's saying that almost knowing what it's like a double bluff, because we're going, oh, like some will think he's being nice. Others like me will think, he's subconsciously being patronizing but not meaning it. Or is he really kind of just saying he's over, like, trying to become the alpha, if you like, Jonathan, and it all, and they're coming in here as the big dogs. We have to get back, Jonathan, to not having any of this pish before games. If a manager feels the right to say that, that's fine, and he obviously does. But all we can do is start winning more of these games, Jonathan. Starting tomorrow, winning these games, and get that narrative to fuck, because it pisses me off.
Yeah, well, that's the only way you address it, is by building the reputation back at Celtic Park. And, if you start producing big results and getting big wins at home, all of a sudden the narrative isn't about the crowd, it's about the team that's actually on the pitch, which is where it should really be. The atmosphere will, of course, have a part to play in it, but the atmosphere shouldn't become the sort of tourist attraction for the teams that are coming to visit and then thinking, well, we can come here and enjoy the Celtic Park atmosphere, soak it all in, get a comfortable win, and then off on our planes home. No, it should be a case that when teams come to Celtic Park, like, oh fuck, we didn't really want this team in our group. We definitely did not want a trip to this place, because we know we're in for a right hard 90 minutes, and we're going to have to play exceptionally well to win. And that was what Celtic Park used to stand for on nights like this. And we have to find a way to get that back. It's the only way we're going to progress. Ange talks about progression and trying to build us into being a Champions League club. Well, that starts at Celtic Park. That starts at home. Because if you're able to get results and start building that reputation back at home, then that already gives you that foundation to then push on. And then you can try and take that into your away games from there. But if you're not able to get your job done at home and you've got managers coming and almost, expecting an easy time of it, because that's how it almost sometimes feels when you read between the lines of what he's actually saying, is he's almost talking about it being fun, and he's not almost, patronising. It's almost like a wee pat on the head for them playing Celtic. And, it's great that we're playing Celtic. It's a wee pat on the head. They've got such a good atmosphere. But what we want them to be thinking is, fuck, we're playing Celtic, and Celtic are actually a really strong team, and they're at home where that crowd is just going to give us dog's abuse for 90 minutes. And, I think tomorrow could be a key moment in us trying to get that back, because, as I say, it's not Real Madrid we're playing tomorrow. It's Red Bull Leipzig. We proved in the away game we can cause them problems. At home, I expect us to cause them even more.
Definitely. On that note, Jonathan, we'll get a quick prediction, and then we're going to bring in Phil McGinley.
Yeah, well, one thing I will say is there's going to be goals, because I'm the same as you. I think I think there's going to be just an all-in approach from Ange Postecoglou. As I said at the top of the show, he's at the top table at the casino, and he's about to throw all his attacking chips at it over the 90 minutes. So if we're going to make equal prediction, I think it's going to be a roller coaster ride. I'm going to go for Celtic to edge it 3-2.
3-2. I said 3-1. On that note, though, Jonathan, it won't be our predictions in the scoreline that mean much, because we do have the main man. What do they call them elsewhere? Producer Phil?
Producer Phil.
I've seen Producer Phil going up in the chat a couple of times, and I'm like, you can't really call yourself a producer just clicking buttons in the background.
Good to have you on, my boy. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm doing good. How are you, boys?
Top, man.
Yeah, all good, Phil. We're looking forward to this. I'm hoping you've got something
Phil loves this shit, mate. This is where he enters his own, man. He loves being like, see these sort of questions. Phil is one of these people, I'm telling you right now, when he asks a question, it's almost like he can see you searching for the answer. He can see your wee brain going. He's like, you're miles off, mate.
The cogs turning in the head. You can literally see through your skull.
Right, mate. As long as it's not through my soul, I'll be fine.
That won't take much for the two of us.
Oh boy, yes. So we're going to be playing about Sutton Death, guys. Also, we tried this a couple of weeks ago, and Mark ruined everything for you too because he just swept in there and won it in the first
it's
goal.
It's not really fair him playing along, to be honest. He wins every quiz. He didn't want him anymore.
Judge Kearney's banned. He asked to come on. Well, he didn't ask to come on. He just said he was available, which I love that enthusiasm. And Jonathan, I told him it was because I want him for the big game, but really it's just so he couldn't do this. I'm only joking.
So, quick recap of the rules. We'll treat it like a penalty shootout where the boys will get 5 shots each. I'm basically the goalkeeper because I'm the quiz master, so they've got to try and get a right answer to score. Now, the last time we did it, Mark obviously won, but Jonathan, you were second, so I'm going to give you the choice. Do you wish to go first or second?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay, you'll be going up first on this one, righty-ho. Okay, so guys, so there are 16 answers in the pool for this one. So
come on.
Quite a few. And
how many lives?
What's that?
How many lives?
Penalty shootout, five goals each.
Sutton Death, of course.
Aye,
right,
so
I just like to double check.
So we'll do obviously best of 5 at a penalty shootout, and if it's tied after that, then we keep going into Sutton Death basically. And if we have to do a tiebreaker, then we'll just do one of the how many goals did the player score again. But this is a tough one. If you get all 16 answers between you boys, you've done really well. Okay, so the question tonight revolves around penalty shootouts, okay? Yep. I want you to name Celtic players who have missed a penalty during a penalty shootout in this century. So from the year 2000 onwards, Celtic have had 7 matches that have went to penalties in the 2000s and since 2000. So Jonathan, you are up first. Can you name me a player who has missed a penalty in a shootout?
So it's just in a penalty shootout. So
not in the 90 minutes or anything.
Time. Okay. Tom Rogic.
Okay. Tom Rogic is, of course, a correct answer.
Oh, right. Okay, I'm going to go for one, and it's the least likely on the list. I am going to say Henrik Larsson.
He did indeed. He missed against Valencia in the UEFA Cup in 2001.
Very good. I think you meant to say there, Jonathan. Very good.
That was very good.
Oh, of course, as always.
By the way.
And I trust you've done this by getting comments off because the guys are going crazy in the comments just now putting in answers.
I've just seen loads of notifications there. But Henrik's a shout.
One apiece after a penalty each.
Oh, I've got one, and it was a game Russell was at. Nakamura.
It was indeed against Spartak Moscow in 2007, 2008. He did indeed. 2-1 to Jonathan after 2. Come on, Russell. Let's see what you've got.
Is it me?
Yeah, Jonathan's 2-1 up.
Jus Valharen.
He did. He missed against Valencia as well. Twice. He had to retake it. And he missed.
How many Martin O'Neill era penalty takers is there in this? This is unfair.
I'm already in trouble.
Okay, so after 2 penalties each, you're tied on 2 apiece. Oh.
Right, I think, is anybody else missing that Spartak Moscow game? I'm really struggling to even think of any penalties. Somebody else missed against Rangers, and I've forgotten who it was. Somebody else definitely missing that one. Who else have we played? Who else have we played in a shootout? I can't even. Dundee United had one that went bloody ages. Who's missing that?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna chuck a name in there just because he used to take a lot of penalties. I'm gonna guess an Alan Thompson.
Alan Thompson is not a correct answer.
Yes!
Oh, advantage Russell.
Right.
Alan.
All I need to do is think of that Rangers shootout and think who it was. It was Tom Rogic and another who missed. And Ronnie Dyla is the manager. Ronnie Dyla era. Come on, Boyce. I'm gonna guess one. I think it's gonna go back to Jonathon, to be honest.
Okay.
Stefan Johansson.
You've hit the post, Russell. Stefan Johansson is not a correct answer. It remains 2-2 after
I just
three.
can't picture who missed that penalty.
Jonathan, penalty number 4 for you, mate. Pressure's on.
I can't believe it's 16.
16. There's 7 games that went to penalties in the from 2000 onwards.
But I guess another one who used to hit a lot of penalties, Scott McDonald.
That's good.
Scott McDonald is a good answer, but it's not the right answer. He is not on this list neither. Oh, it's back to advantage, Russell. Oof.
Wow. Gary Caldwell.
He scored one
Gary
against
Caldwell.
Moscow. It was a good one, that one against
He
Caldwell.
did score one against Spartak Moscow, but I can tell you, in a League Cup game in 2006 against Falkirk, Gary Caldwell missed against Falkirk. Yes, Gary Caldwell is a correct answer. He's finally useful for something. Well done, Gary. So, the last pick for Jonathan, you have to score this, mate. You have to win.
It's horrible. I can't even think.
No, you're 3-2 up. If Jonathan misses this, you've won.
Is a sham.
Taking the last one. You even
I need to try and think. Who missed that penalty?
Oh, so is it like 5 penalties we get?
Yeah, we're doing this. It's like a penalty shootout.
That is a twist. That's a twist. That's good.
That's what we did the last time. There was 3 years doing it, so it did become a bit
couldn't work
confusing,
out
but I
last
treated it like a
time, to be
penalty shootout the last time.
I like it. Right, that's slightly different from Sutton Death, then. That's fine.
So right now, Russell,
Yeah,
you are
it's not even copyright, really, is it?
No, and Sutton can ram it anyway. He loves us.
But yeah, the big story here is Jonathan has to score this one, or else Russell is the winner.
Right, gotcha. I like it.
I'm trying to think who else played in that cup semi against Rangers. I'm really struggling.
It's annoying,
really
because
struggling.
that should be one we get.
It should have been one we got, but I'm really struggling to even think who played in that game. 2016. Scott Brown?
Jonathan, you said Scott Brown. That is a correct answer. Scott Brown did miss a penalty before Tom Rogic missed his.
Oh, fuck.
Right, and as you can imagine, the Rangers fans certainly loved that one. Yeah, so it's now 50. So Russell.
Rangers.
That was against Rangers.
The other one.
Tom Rogic is the only one that missed in that penalty shootout.
Wow,
Tavernier missed a penalty for them as well. There's something you don't hear every day. Tav missed a penalty, you know? Skied it over the bar.
I erased Scott Brown's miss from my mind. I did not know that.
But Russell, obviously, it's tied at 3 each, and this is the last kick for you. If
win.
you score this, you will win for free. If not, we will go into Sutton Death.
I can win.
You can win, mate.
Who would have took a penalty against Falkirk? Because I can't think of any other penalty shootouts. We might have only missed one against Falkirk, to be fair. But we could have had someone else take one from that team. I think someone like Donati.
It's a good shout, but in this
not
case,
it's not
it's
right, though.
wrong. We will be going into Sutton Death. 3 apiece. So, Jonathan, advantage back to you. If you can put one away here, puts the pressure right on Russell.
So how many more missed? 10 more missed? Did you say
So
16
far,
at the top?
you've got 6 answers between you. Yeah, there's 10 more. Aye.
What the hell's there been this many penalty shootouts? I can't even remember us being in many penalty shootouts.
I was shocked as well that there was that many, but yeah, there's like I say, that League Cup game with Falkirk and stuff like that. These are the ones that you don't remember. We obscure games
for obvious reasons.
The League Cup. Yeah.
Right. I know there was one against Dundee United because it went all the way around and Boric scored one, and it went all the way back round. But I cannot for the life of me know.
That would suggest a lot of scorers. That would suggest a lot of scorers.
Somebody must have missed in that shootout, though. Somebody must have. Derek Riordan.
Derek Riordan is also a wrong answer, mate. Derek Riordan is not on this
tough.
list. So now Russell's back in a position to win it.
Let's go back to that time. Let's go back to that time. Let's go back. Evander Snow.
You said Evander Snow, Russell, and you are indeed correct. Evander Snow
Wow.
decided penalty, and
Yes,
Falkirk
it's
beat us that night on the League Cup and knocked us out. Rangers, I believe, get knocked out by St Johnstone the very next night in the League Cup, but we get knocked out by Falkirk. But yeah, Russell Evander Snow's correct. I'm going to tell you all the answers and all the shootouts, right, in the order that they happened. So the first shootout that we had this century was against Valencia.
1-0. Sorry, Phil, just to interrupt. 1-0.
You got the trophy for the time being, 1-0. So Valencia in the UEFA Cup was the first one this century. Larson, Valhaden and Petrov missed that night. Partick Thistle in a League Cup game in 2002. Paul Lambert, Stephen Craney, Neil Lennon and Jamie Smith all missed for the spot that night.
Never getting there.
Wow. Falkirk 2006 League Cup, Kenny Miller, Gary Caldwell and Evander Snow all missed. Spartak Moscow 2007 Champions League qualifier, Nakamura was the only one that missed. The Dundee United game you're thinking about, Jonathan, one Celtic player did miss. Glenn Luvins missed for the spot.
Oh, I'm never getting that one either.
Lee Wilkie missed a penalty for United, and then Willow Flood missed the deciding penalty and signed for Celtic the next day. And the final the next day, the last day of the transfer window. And then obviously the Rangers game 2015-16 season, Scott Brown missed, Tom Rogic missed, and so did Callum McGregor. And the most recent one is the game against Hearts in the COVID Cup final behind closed doors. Ryan Christie missed for the spot. And that is your 16 answers, guys. But well done, Russell. You now hold the Sutton Death trophy this week. Well done, mate. 1-0.
I'm happy. 1-0 in the series, mate. No trophies dished out after 1 week.
No trophies dished out after 1 week.
We all know where we were 15 months ago, Jonathan. So, you know, no trophy.
Yeah. we all know where we'll be in 15 months' time as well. I'll hit back. I'll come back from that.
No, mate. I think I'm picturing the squads quicker than you, mate. I think I'm picturing the squads quicker than you. I think
as long as they don't have more League Cup Falkirk nonsense throughout the series, I think I'll be okay. I didn't expect your knowledge to be quite as good on the League Cup against Falkirk in like 2005. So
no, as I say, I didn't picture the penalty shootout. I pictured the squad. That's what I did, and I went, "Who was a diddy in that team?" Snow. No offense, Snow. Remember I said on one of the shows on here, is he dead? Remember that? I thought he was dead. What the fuck was all that about? I think
he did suffer a heart attack, but he came through it. But maybe that story's been in your mind.
I said like on the show, Jonathan, I know we're still live now. I was like, it's a shame about him after so dying. I was like, what the fuck? He's alive.
He's still alive. Still alive to haunt me forevermore.
Anyway,
did you enjoy that, boys? Was that fun?
Oh, that was brilliant, Phil. I love that. And how you even come up with the idea to come up with a question like that is why you are the man. But yeah, very enjoyable. It's the best way to round off the Monday Club. A bit of head-to-head with the brothers, Jonathan, and I think we both do enjoy that. That is good. Phil, thank you to you for jumping on and doing that. Jonathan, Monday Club regular, always a pleasure to talk to you. On the Celtic tomorrow, Leipzig. I know a man who would have scored against them.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.